Hey everyone, I'm Tassinix, and welcome to a Plotting and Scheming Extra. I'm here with most of the regular crew to do the character kit review on the Temple Guard, the new tank for the Jedi Vanguard faction. Before we go into it, TJ, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm excited. We're I think we're just one character out from possibly seeing, since they said next update, we'll see all the full things, and generally I'm excited for the kit. It feels like a pretty solid one.
Agreed? Agreed. Sasha Aisha, how you doing today?
Yeah, doing well. Doing well. We're just recording basically right on the heels of GAC lock, and mine was kind of like a chaotic and hectic bit there with character rolling out, new FTCs dropping everything else. But yeah, I'm very stimulated.
I bet it has been a busy afternoon.
And
And
and a very hefty war between Chromium and VDO, all at the same time.
Mhm,
No pressure, Sasha. For
True.
I need you to lose all your battles, Sasha. Oh, and Fatal.
mhm, mhm.
You know me. I'm a big TW guy, so for
Oh yeah,
sure, man.
Mm.
What's going on?
Sure you
hence the
even knew
show.
who
Right,
you were
right.
fighting, yes. And last but never least, Fatal. How you doing today?
Solid. Stimulated is a very good word for today. That is exactly where I'm at.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Bordering on overstimulated, but we'll see.
Right. Yeah. Dare I say titillated? I'm like.
My word.
Is this a exuberated? Are we going to start just bringing out
Taking
the
it,
words from the woodwork,
cooking
or
them up.
what?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, anyways, guys, we got a kit to go through here. Let's dig into it. Unit name is Temple Guard. Alignment, light side. Categories, Tank, Galactic Republic, Jedi, and Jedi Vanguard. Key attributes, Tank for the new Jedi Vanguard squad that will be led by Jedi Master Mace Windu. Critical avoidance up, taunt, and defense down are key buffs and debuffs. Extra scaling on relic levels for critical avoidance and defense doubled while critical avoidance up, and pre-taunt if all allies are Galactic Republic Jedi. So, in the limited case where you might use this outside of Jedi Vanguard, at least all Galactic Republic, you can have a pre-taunt. All right, strategy tips. Try to keep critical avoidance up on Temple Guard. Why does on Temple Guard as much as possible to double the bonuses given in the unique. Using Temple Guard's basic while they have taunt will provide a bonus attack on their turn. Targeting enemies with defense down when using Temple Guard's basic will grant them an additional basic attack as well, giving you a total of 3 attacks. All right, get on down to the unique. More than one? Nope, just the one. Good. All right, unique 1. Patience. The virtue. Zeta and Omicron unlock at tier 4. I guess that's when the Omicron kicks. Oh, well, I don't know what that means. Yeah. Final text. Temple Guard has 10% critical avoidance and defense. For each relic amplifier level, Temple Guard gains an additional 5% critical avoidance and 10% defense. These values are doubled while Temple Guard has crit avoidance up. At the start of battle, if all allies are Galactic Republic Jedi, Temple Guard gains taunt for 1 turn, and if all allies are Jedi Vanguard, all allies gain protection up 40% for the rest of the encounter, which persists through defeat and can't be dispelled or prevented. The first time each other Jedi Vanguard ally loses all their protection, Temple Guard taunts and gains critical avoidance up for 2 turns. Now, that's just the base part of the unique, with the Omicron applied, while in Grand Arena Championships, and there are no allied Galactic Legends. Galactic Republic Jedi gain plus 50% defense, offense, and potency. If all allies are Jedi Vanguard, these values are doubled. At the start of battle, if all allies are Galactic Republic Jedi, Temple Guard gains crit avoidance up for 2 turns and inflicts captive on the weakest enemy, which can't be copied, dispelled, evaded, prevented, or resisted until the start of Temple Guard's second turn. So that's pretty interesting. So I guess there's kind of an incentive there to have no particular emphasis of stacking speed on this guy if you're trying to perpetuate captive. I guess we'll talk more about that in a bit, but on to the basic. Unbroken Blade. Final text. Deal physical damage to target enemy and inflict defense down for 2 turns. Once per turn, If it is Temple Guard's turn and they are taunting, attack again, which can't be countered. And if the target enemy has defense down, attack again, which can't be countered. Special 1. Fear leads to anger. Cooldown of 3, unlock tier 3. Final text. Deal physical damage to all enemies and ability block them for 1 turn. For each enemy ability blocked, for each enemy that is ability blocked, Jedi allies recover 5% health and protection. Jedi Vanguard allies recover double that amount. Okay, so it's bringing the flavor from the original Jedi Guardian, right? The AoE ability block. Nice. Special 2. Stoic Determination. Cooldown of 3. Final text. Temple Guard gains crit avoidance up and taunts for 2 turns, and another target light side ally stealths for 3 turns. Remove 20% turn meter from all enemies. Incentive to have some potency, but you have plus 100% potency in Grand Arenas if you have that condition met on the Omicron, so probably don't need to add a ton onto the character. That brings us to the end of the kit, guys. First thoughts? Anybody jump in? I mean, I'll go first to say, nice, brawny tank. Kind of comes with everything that it feels like he really needs in terms of potency in particular. You bulk out, you get your relics high, you have probably a crit avoidance arrow, and you're nigh on to uncrittable type of thing.
I think Fatal said it best with Fatal Your Stream. I think it called it really well. And also makes me thankful to go to the other piece of what I started working on, also because Fatal said it, but I'm going to give him no credit. I'll take all of it myself. It was my idea. I've really started pushing on the secondary defenses. So I've literally started doing a top down where I can do it. Like this season in particular, what we're coming up, and obviously where it's at, there's Datacrons with that heavy in there, but this team feels like obviously we're still missing one more character and obviously Mace in there. They have conditions for your taunt, but Fatal called it out of the sticky taunt. Right, I'll just use you. I'm just steal your words, Fatal, and give you no credit. It's the captive. It does. I do agree with maybe you don't want to put any speed. Maybe you want to have them locked to the right setup, but then you also need them to take turns if you're going to try to get taunt back. So if the taunt's gone or whatever it's going to do, and I would again want to hear what Fatal's thoughts are on it, but I would love to. The captive, obviously, the weakest character, 9 times out of 10 is what? The attacker, right? So if it was like, because he's pretty much naturally a slow character, I think, in general. And it almost feels like.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that you're saying it, right? It's like, it almost feels like if they could keep a way to make the taunts, just keep reapplying it, whatever it's going to do, it would be like a character where it's like, you'll give him all of these things to just make him a tree stump and sit there. And maybe it's counter attack or something else that's going to help the team do all of the work naturally. Because I know we saw it with Beck and some of the things he's doing, and also with Shock and some others. So maybe that's what we'll see with Mace. But yeah, the captive is appealing to say, I'm going to lock down your weakest character, which is probably going to be that key character you don't want locked down.
Yeah, and when I think no particular amount of speed added sounds good as opposed to zeroed out speed. You do have the pre-taunt. You still need to get to your first turn, where I have just seen here doing the event today. He will go for using the taunt first on his first turn, and then the captive doesn't drop until the start of his second. So you do need him to have enough, I guess, to get a turn. Like, you don't want him out there with no taunt for too long. But the good news is that if somebody starts putting serious pressure on one of the allies and they lose their protection, he'll get a taunt back ahead of that first turn. Anyways, also got.
And the only other thing I'd add in was an interesting aspect of being able to select which ally to put under stealth and it's a long stealth. It's a 3-turn stealth. I thought that was pretty nice. I mean, we're kind of challenged in assessing it because we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle to understand really what the picture will look like. I think the biggest piece is yet to drop, but it feels like it's likely to be promising. But I don't see super sweet fits with existing squads we have out there. Some intriguing ones, but where it's like, gosh, feels like provisions of the kit are just left on the table, or just somehow misfit everything that's out there, and that's for a reason because we don't have the whole picture yet. But it doesn't mean like this week before we actually have the new Mace, and won't throw him out there and perhaps see what he can do under a color and back or something like that. I don't have high hopes in the near term, but he's interesting and has some interesting mechanics that I'm glad to see.
Fatal thoughts,
Yeah.
feelings, impressions. I know you did an initial review here the other day, last week.
Yeah, last week I was fairly low on this character. But I will say it's kind of aged well in my head as I've been like kind of mulling it over and chewing on it. We got some weird contradictions here, right? Where it's like, I think if you're judging this character as a tank, we already kind of went through this with Scorch, but 2025, or at least mid 2025, is kind of the period of tank de-escalation, where like I bled so many banners in Conquest this last Conquest trying to use LV clones because Scorch just is not a real tank. He is not a 2024, 2025 tier tank, right? We're in an era of sticky taunts, lock taunts, all of that goodness, and this character and Scorch, but Scorch kind of has LV, but like this character is kind of CG walking away from that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I read the kit, I was looking for a tank. And I really don't think that we see much of it here, right? I don't even remember if he has a pre-taunt, but I'm going to assume he does. So we got the pre-taunt.
He does.
And then we have a manual taunt on a 4-turn cooldown.
And then a reactive taunt whenever, what is it? At the start of battle, if all allies are GR Jedi, Temple Guard gains taunt for 1 turn. And if all allies are Jedi Vanguard, all allies gain the product counter. So reactive taunt, active taunt, and pre-taunt. All of it.
But crucially, that reactive taunt is not very good, I would argue. Right? We are more in the vein of like a Royal Guard than like I would be looking for this to be like something like Zalbar. If this is going to be his only clause, Zalbar is just like listening for that condition over the entire fight. This is crucially the first time only.
Do you think we saw what they did with Scorch? So I'm going to go to your vein of what you just said, Fatal. Do we think there's a possibility because he's the guard that when Mace comes into play, there's some kind of mechanic to force the taunt, e.g., marked or something else?
I mean that's entirely possible, but this is where I was about to start flipping because what I just said was my opinion last week. Where I'm at now, I think, is I'll start off with the captive that it's really kind of unprecedented in this game, and I guess if we're talking in terms of practicality, if you're a theory crafting player, this ironically does give the attacker control ultimately over who gets targeted. That's always kind of been the nature of strongest, weakest type abilities. Like squads like Rey are chock full of that. That it could give you a competitive advantage if okay, 90% of people are gonna have their attacker weakest, but if I remod the specific way, that gives me ends. Which I guess against the character, but all that is to say, the captive effect feels very, very strong to me. If you just abstract it out to like, okay, they lose their weakest character until like turn 20. That is pretty real. Like that, not many characters can like put out that kind of presence. And so that immediately I'm kind of like, okay, I'm trying to evaluate it in that vein. You got the stat stick aspect on top, plus 100% defense offense is just like, hey, we're literally just like, hey, this is Finn lead. And like Finn lead has always been kind of the sleeper lead of like, that is just a bundle of stats. We just tucked a little bit of a Datacron in there for you. Type beat. And then the thing that I'm going to say, I think is a little bit sleeper, which, you know, I've made it clear that I don't expect most tanks to be able to get to play the video game. But if he does, the AoE ability block is also kind of just like a nice sweetener that like, because that should be the turn where the captive ends, and so like, that's your dismount is like, okay, you can now play the video game and hold this for me along the way. Like, yeah, just hold this AoE ability block real quick.
It is sassy. I like it.
And the captive applies that sort of match, so they should be 0% TM when they get uncaptive. So it's not like that ends and then that character is in the fight. That ends and then they've got to work their way up to TM. So yeah, it's a good foundation. And the other thing I would point out is as much as this character might kind of fail to be a tank, depending on what we see for Depa or Mace, the Jedi Vanguard faction is more well suited potentially to not need to worry as much about taunting. Like Barris is already in there, right? Like Barris is kind of the queen of like, you're aiming at whatever, but you're kind of dealing with me. We don't know, but like I imagine Depa will probably be a support that we might see more survivability tools out of her. This is a fairly hardy faction, right? Like we've got the ward on Jocasta already. We could see more ward on any of the two new characters. Keller and Beck has like pretty good clauses, although some of it's on his lead, but where Scorch kind of leaves a bit of a unfortunate taste in my mouth, I think you got a stronger foundation here for like, yeah, Temple Guard might not always be taunting, but maybe you're not hating life for it, right? Like,
fair.
So here's my problem with the statement just on that basis alone. The idea for Scorch is ultimately LV's out for himself, right? It's not one for all for one. Jedi and the light side have generally prided themselves on buffs. I know we were talking about Barris, and I know it makes sense, but also look at Shock. Shock was giving out foresights, and that's disrupting the fight as well. So I can't see them not trying to amplify the buffs or the disruption. Like a foresight on that team, along with the taunting and everything else, just makes that much more punishing if you can't get to them fast enough.
Giving foresight.
It's I forget where it's at. It's one of the buffs she'll give because she'll give the foresight as well. But even if it's not that, I'm just trying to think through the fight. It makes sense with LV and Scorch, from the debuff aspect and the idea that Darkseid's out for themselves. It's always been that way. They're up to power and go. LV's stealing the amplifiers and everything else because he's trying to buff himself up. That's the idea that Darkseid's generally live that way. Jedi and anything else on the live side, even in the game in general, have lived from the buff aspect of things. Look at GMY. Look at other aspects of it. And they've had interesting things they've done with Omicrons, and they could try to build it in. I think your call out on the sticky taunt makes sense, but I could also see them trying to do like reactive buffs that make the fight last that much harder. And you're already, as you said it, and it's true, you do that captive and you're on a 4v5 if you're playing a 5v5 match. We've seen how good Beck is in TW, right? Beck in TW is amazing. That team is still, right now today, one of the better teams out there. You go and see it, it's like, oh man, I got to deal with this now because it's so well suited for that. You've seen what Mace looks like, even as a character now in the Omicron setup that they've done. Mace is a great tank, and when it still was one of the best Omicrons, I can still see them trying to combine that here on this team. Beck is going to be good on this team because we love protection up. Maybe he's not the lead, obviously. It may be Mace, but it's just like I'm trying to go through the team, and it could be what you said, but they could try to use the buffs to play the fight. E.g., look at what they do with GG. They move the marked around, right? And it's like they've got the application to say, we're going to do it this way. They try to make Scorch do, obviously, the marked to swap the fight around. So it's like, yeah, you still have a taunt. But historically, with the other setups, I could see them trying to push this in. And it's like, if you're not going to hit the guard, maybe you're going to hit Mace. And so you still have Jocasta Nu coming in from behind doing her amazing shenanigans while it's fighting out.
Okay.
Yeah, I would almost be more surprised if we don't see more kind of brawling put into Mace, particularly, or it could be represented through Depa. Yeah, I tend to agree.
Fair, very fair. I know, again, we don't have everybody yet, so it's tough to say without the full team known to us. But just in and of itself, thoughts about modding for the character. Final opinion will be reserved for when we get to the end of the road. But with the crit avoidance and the defense stacking, and then the synergy with relic levels, thinking full defense sets, crit avoidance arrow, protection, primaries otherwise.
That's what I want to know, man. That's what I want to see, like the pieces. It's such a tough idea.
That's why I covered those caveats up front. Just thinking about the character in and of itself. Just as
it's per relic amplifier for his crit avoidance, right?
And
is that not what I read?
And additional defense, yeah.
With this team, I like your idea of it, right? You're doing low hanging fruit. Mine is honestly the call out. If they build the team correctly, where it's, I kind of like the idea.
Oh, you just cut out on us.
I did because I'm getting a phone call, but it's like I like the idea that we make this dude literally a tree stump, but the reactive combinations that are doing the work, so that the captive is that much more damaging. He'll take his one turn, and then it's just out, and you're in a 4v5 match. That's cool idea, and I think Fatal's right. So it's like I would love to see a no speed added reactive, like giving buffs and taunts and stickiness, and you're just still a 4v5 as long as he don't move. That is putting up a great addition to what this team could do, in my opinion.
Other thoughts on early modding, guys?
I would say I would put the Datacron or Datacrons more specifically into the conversation at this point.
Where?
I do think that speedless seems like the safe neutral way to go. Is just like I'm a little bit worried that we could end up seeing like a recurring theme from Hondo where we gave you this captive, but also haha, you have a Terminator train, so you can't make that shit last. It's like the issue will be forced on you, which doesn't necessarily, like, Terminator doesn't necessarily make speedless meaningless. It just severely diminishes the amount of time you have. But I mean, for now, until we see those kits and it's proven out, yeah, I'm on speedless. There's some weird shit happening in this squad between health and protection, where like Keller and Beck is protection heavy. Jocasta certainly protection heavy, but the unique here has the 40% protection up locked. Crucially, if it wasn't locked, I wouldn't give a shit, but it's locked, so that matters to a degree. Like Temple Guardian, maybe you get a little bit of benefit out of modding for health. I would have to check his base stats. I could do that right now. But I mean, if you just want the safe neutral, I would just go for protection primaries. His protection is way better. We're talking 75k protection, 59k health.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you do get the locked protection up, but yeah, I'm just on 3x defense, 4x protection primaries.
Well, you figure, yeah. So you're going with 4 protection primaries. You don't think the crit avoidance is a good get?
I would actually almost get, like, it really depends on the rest of the kits, but I would take that crit avoidance out if I could. Either give like
and crit avoidance up. I kind of want to agree here.
You think it's
to
simplify with all of that?
I understand they said you want to keep the crit avoidance up, but also again, we're working off of just what's in front of us for the team without all the perspectives of, and again, that's what I was talking about with foresight or something else where it's like, haha, you can't hit my crit avoidance up because I've given you a turn of foresight to offset what you're trying to do. Giving the buffs makes sense and it's keeping it longer. But I that's why I went with Tree Stump, right? It's just the idea I'm not going to move anywhere and I'm all defense all day. And I've naturally built in relic amplifiers and I'm already naturally having a crit avoidance arrow, probably amplified at that point, just because of we're going to start here and then per relic amplifier, and this is going to be like what I would expect an R19. You've already got your arrow, so I want it to be the Fatal-esque build of I'm going to simplify it and I'm going to super stack all the defense here, so he's not going to move or do anything, and protection up on top of just ass ton of defense on top, stacked up. It just feels like nothing's getting through him, and that's I think the idea as the you shall not pass type setup.
Until Mace and Depa show
Yeah.
up and confirm that, like, yeah, it's Keller and Beckfith, like, Barris is on the bench, I want to be getting crit. Like, that's just... So I'm not really incentivized to explore the CA arrow. Plus, on top right now, I mean, the crit avoidance up, I don't assume is ever going to last.
Right.
So what, we're at 55% base crit avoid? I would just say the crit avoidance arrow could definitely be within range, but it's more of a meta call in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
If we had locked crit avoidance up, then I would feel differently. But
Ooh, the locked would be a fun aspect to tie in, and I think that would be. Is that the first one that we would see if it was a locked?
well, it's such a weird space in general because we went from having critical immunity to critical avoidance up, and
What's the value of the CA up?
it's just like 25%, I think.
25%. Yeah.
Is it just 25? I'd assumed more.
So you're looking at a max of 80%. That thing active. 80%.
The number I remember was vaguely like this character is around like 100, 110 with all the doubling while they have it and blah blah blah.
Doubling.
I'm not knocking CG for this at all either. By the way, I think this just shows where their head is at, where they're like, we think total crit immunity is kind of lame. You know, there's been a lot of that flying around the game, and so this feels like CG kind of trying to recalibrate a bit of like, you know, you've got characters like Padawan, Obi-Wan, where it's like they have 200% crit chance, and they're like, okay, we want, if you're gonna hyper invest in crit chance, we want that to still be respected. But if you're not, this character will shrug you off. It seems kind of to me like what CG is gunning for with this kit design.
Fair. All right. Appreciate you guys indulging me on that. Anything else you guys want to talk about this kit before we wrap it up? Yeah. Okay. Well, appreciate you guys joining me, and thank you everybody at home for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, hit subscribe to the channel to see more, and until next time, it's been real, it's been awesome, and real awesome.